Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Game Patrol, the only gaming podcast out there. That's right. I'm your host, Landon Plumley, and welcome. Pleasure to have you with us. I'm glad you're here. Have a seat. Maybe have a nice warm cup of cocoa in these cold, cold days. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm really tired. I'm not as tired as I was last week. But I've had 2 Red Bulls today, and I'm still tired. So that says a lot. And so, yeah. Anyway, it's just me again. I'm a little lonely, but that's okay because we got a ton of stuff to talk about this week that I'm very excited to talk about with all of you. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. I've got 2 big things I want to talk about with you guys today, and first of which is what I mentioned I would discuss this week, which is The Medium, right? We got a brand new big game. It's the first Xbox Series X exclusive game. And I've played it. I played through the entirety of it. I have a full review if you would like to see a more condensed version of this discussion. I have a full review up on my YouTube channel at Pandamaster, so be sure to go check that out because I worked very, very hard on it. I'd like to think I did a good job, and so go down there. I usually, I love numbers, right? I love scoring things, and I like making lists, and I like, being able to quantify everything. But I ended up not giving a score to The Medium because it was really difficult for me to place. Some ways I wanted to say it was a 9 out of 10, other ways I wanted to say it was an 8 out of 10, and I didn't want to say 8.5, and so I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about this game for a while and, just get my thoughts out, right? And so, yeah, here's the bottom line, right? If you enjoy horror games, I believe you will enjoy The Medium. As someone who loves horror games myself, I thoroughly enjoyed The Medium, but also as someone who enjoys narrative-driven games. So I think this is a mixture of a horror game and an interactive drama, like The Walking Dead, or what's another one? I wanted to say Until Dawn, kind of. Not that it's similar necessarily in gameplay to Until Dawn, although it kind of is. It kind of is. Um, yeah, it's very much narrative driven, and I think the story is the main thing to focus on here. And, I think you guys will enjoy it if you want to give it a chance. Again, it is on Xbox Series X and S and PC. That is it. No PlayStation 5, no Xbox One. This is a game of few consoles, right? But, yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It took me probably about, I don't know, I want to say maybe 6-7 hours, something like that. I don't remember, honestly. But it's fairly short, but enough that you can get your meaty hands into it. Retails for $50, but it is available with Game Pass, and I heavily recommend that you do that if you do want to play and you have access to Game Pass. Please get Game Pass because Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, and I think especially because I don't necessarily think there's been a mixed reaction to this game, right? And so I don't want to say that, my thoughts are the definitive thoughts and everybody else is wrong. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and there are plenty of people who, don't like this game. And so that's why I think Game Pass is the perfect place for it to be on, so then you can try it out, and if, it's not your cup of tea, you didn't just blow $50 for no reason, right? And so I'm glad this is on Game Pass, and I want as many people to experience it as possible because I think the story is really, really good, and I think it has some really awesome franchise potential, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So overall, my thoughts, I think the story is really, really excellent. It is very complex, right? You don't know what's going on. It's one of those games that makes you question things very similar to Control, like I feel like the medium and control kind of go hand in hand. It's except the medium is just more horror oriented than control is. Like there are some horror elements to control, don't get me wrong. I'm really excited to replay the game because like I mentioned last week, it's available for free with on PS5 with PlayStation Plus. So of course I immediately downloaded it. I'm not sure when I'll get the chance to check that out, but I do want to. But yeah, I love Control so much. But also, I never played the DLC, so this will be nice to get my hands on that. But yeah, no, the medium I would say is very similar to Control in that you don't really know what's going on, and things are kind of all over the place. I wouldn't say it's as straightforwardly chaotic as Control is. Like, Control knows it doesn't make sense, and it wears that on its sleeve. The medium, like, not that it doesn't know it's not making sense. It's more so in more of the classic sense where, you know, as you play the game, things start to make sense, but there's still, you know, a lot that we're not sure of. Whereas Control is just, you know? Like, I played that game all the way through, and I still couldn't really tell you that much about what happened in that game. There's a lot. It's definitely one you have to spend a lot of time with, but I would say the medium is similar in that the more you focus on the story and the more you dig into the game beyond just, you know, like speed run it and just go really fast and do all the gameplay stuff. Like, find the notes, like search every nook and cranny, look around for all the extra details, read everything, because it will give you not only a better understanding of the game, but a deeper appreciation for it. Because I think the story is really, really good. You know, to be honest, I didn't really care much about this game when it was first announced in, like, most of its development cycle. I just, you know, I was like, oh, it's another Bloober Team horror game. Like, I played a little bit of Blair Witch and was like, okay. I really liked Observer, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't, like, you know, super groundbreaking to me. And I've seen some gameplay of Layers of Fear, and it just hasn't really stood out to me. So, you know, Bloober Team has never really been a developer that I've ever been, like, super interested in. But I think they did some really cool things here with that go beyond, like, this isn't just a game about, oh, she's a medium, she can talk to ghosts, blah, 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 like, you know, oh, there's mystery here. I think they do some really cool, original supernatural stuff here. Like, I think, and I said this in my review, I think this is one of the most original ideas for a horror game we've had in a very long time, you know? Like, I think that this could potentially be the next Outlast, right? I'm not saying that this game is as scary as Outlast, although there were a couple times in the first act I was genuinely terrified. Like, it has some scary moments to it, but it's not a very scary game. I just mean, like, Outlast is a fairly new horror franchise. I totally think this could expand out into a franchise, and I hope it does. I would love to see more because I was really engrossed in the story. In fact, my biggest gripe with it is that it ends a little too soon, you know? I think there could be more. I don't think the pacing itself was necessarily bad, although the second act does go on just a little bit. Like, I think it just goes on just a smidge too long. But I think because there's such a big scope, because this is such an original idea, in my opinion, I think there's such a rich lore going on that I would like to learn more. Since Bloober Team, I don't want to say they've only done standalone, because, you know, they had Layers of Fear too, right? They're no strangers to sequels, but I kind of see their projects as being standalone unless, you know, they're received really, really well, which, I mean, Layers of Fear wasn't even received all that well. It was just really popular. But anyway, I just kind of assumed that this was it. And with that, you know, I wanted more. But I also completely understand why there wasn't more, because the big thing about this, right, is the dual reality gameplay, right? So you play, I would say, 60% of the game running 2 instances of the same game, which is taxing. So I played this on PC. I did not play it on the Xbox, but I have a beefcake of a PC. I have an i7 I have an i7 9th gen and a 2070. So, I can run like any PC game. I ran Cyberpunk pretty fine. But this game struggled to maintain 30 FPS at 1080p with ray tracing off, which I thought was nuts. Over on the Xbox side of things, trying to remember off the top of my head, I say it in the review, but it runs at 30 FPS. I'm trying to... Wait, am I? Sorry, I do a lot of work outside. I'm actually going to pull up my review because I don't want to say the wrong thing here. Because I believe there's only one option. It doesn't have a performance mode. Yeah, that's right. So the Series X can run at up to 4K, and split screen sequences can dip all the way down to 900p. It has a dynamic resolution, right? So instead of being one set resolution like how PC works, a lot of console games will run in a dynamic resolution. So more taxing instances, they'll just scale down the resolution to keep the frame rate, right? So it ranges from 4K to 900p, whereas on the Series S, it ranges from 1080p to 648p, but it does maintain a, nice 30 FPS. Like, on my end of things, I didn't really notice all that much. When it got to the split screen, I would notice some occasional, frame drops and that sort of thing, but nothing too bad, though I streamed some of the game, and when it got to split screen, I would say I probably had an average of 20 FPS. I'm sure I went below, definitely wasn't hitting 30, and so, I'll mention, obviously my processor was already taking a hit streaming, so I'm sure that was, that had something to do with it, right? But, yeah, just saying, my PC is not an old PC by any means, but it had some struggles running this game. So it is definitely a technical showcase, that is to say. And so with that, this isn't exactly a AAA studio, right? They don't have this unlimited budget. So I'm sure most of their budget went towards making sure this thing could run, this thing could exist, and it wasn't super buggy, which I can't think of running into any bugs, I didn't have any issues with the game that I can think of, and so it's a very well polished game, and it's a beautiful looking game. I would love to try it out with ray tracing, but doesn't seem to work. Also, I should mention it uses ray tracing on the Series X, not on the Series S, of course, and so the fact that it can maintain 30 FPS easy with ray tracing on Series X, bravo to them. They did a good job optimizing this game. There is some issues with the frame time for some reason, but the developers are working on it. Hopefully that'll get fixed soon. But overall, performs really, really well on Xbox. And yeah, PC, it's a mixed bag because, everybody has different rigs and that sort of thing. But it takes a lot to run it. And so I understand why it's not a super long game, because I'm sure it was time-consuming enough to get this dual instance running on a machine, because you sure as hell couldn't get it to run on a 2013 Xbox, right? And so, you need the power of an SSD, you need that powerful processing unit, that graphical, the VRAM, all that stuff. And so I understand why there wasn't a ton of game there, but what's there is really, really excellent, and I really want to see more of it. And so, fingers crossed, I'm hoping they will continue it. I hope that this becomes a franchise, because I think there's evidence towards both. There's some things towards the end of the game that could easily set up a sequel. I'm not sure exactly where they would go with it, but there's definitely room for a sequel. But also, I think there is a fitting enough ending to, if there isn't a sequel, obviously I'll be bummed, but, I don't think the way that the game ended is a surefire sign that there will be a sequel, or at least that they're planning a sequel. In my opinion, I think they came up with the ending with a sequel in mind, but I don't think they have any plans as of right now. I think it's more so of a, they laid some groundwork in case it does well, and if people want a sequel, they'll come up with it, But, yeah, in this case, I hope they do, because I really enjoyed this game. Again, if you're a fan of classic horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, or interactive dramas like The Walking Dead and Until Dawn, though I will mention, of course, you don't make narrative decisions in this game. I just mean just very narrative-driven games like those. I heavily recommend this game. And again, with Game Pass, there's no commitment. Just play it. Have some fun. I've been recommending it to everyone I know that can play it, which isn't many, to be fair. But, yeah, I definitely recommend this game. I think it's a lot of fun. And, yeah, that's the medium. And so, with that, we'll move on to our next topic, which is, it's a new month. It's February. Happy February, you guys. I constantly forget that it's February because I was listening to a Nintendo podcast the other day, and they were talking about the new Animal Crossing updates, and they mentioned the update coming on the 15th, and they had B-roll playing that was the trailer saying February 15th. I'm like, the February, that's next month. Like, why are they saying the 15th? Like, that doesn't happen. And then I realized, oh, wait, I'm an idiot. Like, I realized that, that's actually not that far away, and here we are, 4 days for you guys into February, and that's just kind of nuts to me. Time is going really fast. We're already a month into 2021, and it all feels like a blur, but I'm having a good time. And so, yeah, let's talk all about recapping January and looking ahead and seeing what to look forward to in this brand new spanking month, right? So, as per usual, let's talk about the best game of January, the big boy, the one that I haven't gotten my hands on yet, unfortunately, still, which is Hitman 3. This was the best reviewed game of January. Everybody's in love with it. I'm so jealous. Like, I wish I could, but I'm so broke. Like, without getting into a lot of details, I'm in a lot of financial trouble right now, and so it's making it very difficult to do my job well here. But yeah, I haven't gotten my hands on Hitman 3 yet. I hopefully will be able to do so soon. But yeah, people really, really love this game. Some people are calling it the best Hitman game ever made. A lot of people, like most people, are calling it the best of the trilogy for sure. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to check it out. I've seen a lot of funny videos of just the zany wackiness you can pull off as the assassin, and just, it seems like a very fun time, and I am here for it. And it's just, yeah, I'm excited to play. I will definitely get my hands on it at some point this year, but hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, that was the best reviewed game of January. And then over to the most popular game of January, the one that everybody talked about the most. It was actually the Medium, which was surprising, but also not super surprising. I mean, like I said, this is the first Xbox Series X exclusive, right? The only game that is on, we have Destruction All-Stars and Demon Souls and Miles Morales and all these other, well, actually not Miles Morales, but Astro's Playroom. We've got multiple PS5 exclusives, but not any Xbox Series X exclusives. Now we finally have one. And so, of course, there's a lot of console wars talk, but, Xbox fans are happy to get their hands on the first true new Xbox game, right? And so, yeah, it's exciting. And, like, I just went on for a while, like, it's a really, really fun game. And so, that was the most popular game of January. Now, looking ahead to February, we've got a lot of really cool games coming I'm excited about. One is already out, and that is Destruction All-Stars. I just mentioned it. It released on February 2nd. It is free with PlayStation Plus. Talked about it a little bit last week. I have yet to actually dig into this game. I have it downloaded and installed. I've been very busy. I have a big project that I've been working on. It should be coming this week. I'm hoping I can get it out possibly today, if not today, tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I just really hope I can get it out this week. But yeah, I've been working on that and everything. But probably tonight. I'll probably start it tonight, and get my hands on it. The goal is to have a big discussion about Destruction All Stars next week. Talk about this game, which I'm excited to talk about because we've just finally got our first big, info dump about the game last week, and now it's out, and so I'm excited to check into it. I've heard some mixed stuff so far. It doesn't seem like it's going to be this, it doesn't seem like it's going to be Game of the Year contender or anything like that, but it's free. I think it'll be exciting to see, just like a full PS5 community, right? There's not a lot of fun multiplayer games on the PS5 right now. There's basically Call of Duty, FIFA, I don't know, what else is there? I think I talked about this last week. What was the game I mentioned that I never played multiplayer? Oh, 2K. But all of those are, really competitive, Call of Duty, you can sort of have a good time on. Well, you can have a good time on multiplayer without being super good, but you should never jump into a FIFA or a 2K match unless you know what you're doing. Whereas, Destruction All Stars is a nice game where it's nobody knows what they're doing, and so you can find some cool community there, and it's all PS5 players. There's no crossplay. Not that crossplay is a bad thing, but it's kind of a fun way to celebrate having a PS5. It's a game where a bunch of PS5 players can come together and have fun and just be like, hey, we have this awesome new console. Let's celebrate. Let's play games together. Cool stuff. I don't know. I think it's cool. And so, yeah, I'm excited to jump in, but that is out now. Then on the 12th, which is pretty soon, we've got Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. So the closer this game gets to release, the more excited I get about it. At first I was I literally have 3D World right over there, for Wii U. So I was I can play it, but the Bowser's Fury expansion is a brand new 3D Mario game, and so I'm very excited to check that out. I'll probably replay 3D World before I jump into Bowser's Fury, but I'm very excited to check it out and have some fun with that. And so, yeah, that comes out February 12th. And then at the end of the month, February 26th, we have Bravely Default 2. Now, JRPG fans are super, super excited about this. I know next to nothing about Bravely Default, but I know it was very heavily praised, and I'm excited to see what they do with this, seeing as the first two games, which, yes, this is the third game, even though it's called Bravely Default 2, the first two games were on the 3DS, and so to see its, first, home console release, even though, hybrid, whatever, I'm interested to see how that translates, if it's going to feel like a handheld game or not, that sort of thing. But people are really excited about it, and it comes out February 26th. So those are the big February games. I think a fun collection to look forward to. It's good month. It's definitely a good month for Switch fans, for sure. Getting just 3D World in itself is enough, but then also Bravely Default 2, a highly anticipated game. So definitely a fun month for Nintendo fans. Now, let's get into the gaming news this week. First off, Embracer Group has acquired Gearbox in a $1.3 billion deal. So, these names are a little bit lesser known in the gaming community, but they are very important. And so, for the uninitiated, Embracer Group is basically the mega conglomerate that is basically THQ Nordic. So, when THQ came back as THQ Nordic, they acquired a bunch of stuff, and they all kind of came under one big umbrella called Embracer Group. So, let's go over... They own a lot of stuff, actually. And so, let me see, do I have... So, Embracer's existing operating groups include THQ Nordic, which is the dedicated one that is the group that we probably think of When we think of THQ Nordic, they're the people that handle Darksiders, Destroy All Humans, that stuff, those more popular IPs. Saber Interactive, Koch Media, I don't know if I pronounced it right, DECA Games, Deca Games, I don't know, Amplifier Game Invest, and Coffee Stain Holding. And so I say Saber Interactive, if I'm thinking the right one, I think it's Saber Interactive, is the one that has Deep Silver. And so they are a big, no, they're not. They're the ones that handle Crisis Remastered, NBA Playgrounds, WWE 2K Battlegrounds, that sort of thing. So is it Koch Media or Coke? One of them is responsible for Deep Silver. Yeah, it's Koch or Coke. I don't know. I really don't. I've never heard it pronounced before. I've seen it a bunch of times, but I've never heard anybody say the name. So yeah, please don't cancel me. But yeah, they're the people that are Deep Silver, and so which means they also own the rights to Saints Row. Just letting you know, just throwing that out there. But yeah, they've just acquired Gearbox, which they are most famously known as the developers of Borderlands. They've also come out with things like Battleborn, Duke Nukem. What else? I think they published what's it called? The last thing from Outriders devs. Bulletstorm? I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. Do not take my word for that. I'm looking it up right now. But they're a fairly big company. Oh, Homeworld is their other big one. Also did the Brothers in Arms. Okay, they didn't do that. Just forget ahead of that. They didn't the Bulletstorm. They didn't do that one. But yeah, because the biggest thing they're working on right now is Homeworld 3, right, which is being developed by Blackbird Interactive. And so now the whole studio is owned by Embracer. They've merged into one. And so yeah, we also got information that Borderlands would still be published by whoever publishes them, which I can't remember. Oh, I'm bad today. 2K, there we go. So Borderlands is still going to be published by 2K. They already said that. Had to clarify. And so but yeah, it's a pretty big deal. THQ Nordic is continuing to get bigger and bigger. I heard this news and I was like, I kind of had a mixed reaction because I have a lot of love for THQ Nordic because it's done a great job of bringing back IPs. Like we got Darksiders 3, Darksiders Genesis, Destroy All Humans. The problem is that they were kind of mediocre. I will say Darksiders Genesis was really, really good. But most of these games they're coming out with are just kind of fluff. Like none of them are really groundbreaking. Even Darksiders Genesis, it was really good, but it didn't exactly break the mold. And so I have a mixed bag. I would not put it past them to bring back Duke Nukem. I honestly think that one of their main reasons for acquiring Gearbox was so they could bring back Duke Nukem if it wasn't already happening. And so they love to bring back IPs. Literally, they bank off of nostalgia. They called their company THQ Nordic, even though THQ doesn't exist anymore, just so that they could have the name THQ. And people, that brings in people, which it did. People got excited. I think that's kind of died down now. And so it seems like they have a thing for bringing back old IPs. And so that's cool. It's just they haven't really done a great job of it. And so, yeah, I'm kind of half and half on it, but we'll see what happens. Also, we got a release date for Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I am so excited. It is releasing May 14th, exactly 4 days after my birthday. I'm so excited, guys. May is shaping up to be such a great month for games. It's my birthday. We're getting Resident Evil Village, which is my most anticipated game of the year. Then, a week later, after I will be done with my 7th playthrough of Resident Evil Village, I'll be ready to play Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And so, we got some new info. I read an article, I read a preview for the game, because I'm really curious about what they've done with the first game. Because I recently tried to replay it, and I did not have a good time. It is a very difficult game to play now. And so I was very interested to hear about the changes coming to the first game. And it didn't say a lot, It was a lot of technical mumbo jumbo, right? A lot of quality of life improvements, which just based off of the words, it's kind of hard, you know? It's going to be one of those where you'll need to, like, feel it. And so I'm very excited to get my hands on it because I can't tell based off what they're saying if it's going to, you know, feel better. I mean, I'm sure it will feel better, but to what degree, right? Because their biggest thing was they wanted to preserve the experience because for some reason there are plenty of people out there who think that Mass Effect 1 is the best Mass Effect, which is so wrong. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. I love the story of Mass Effect 1. I mean, the story of all three are great. I love them all. But, like, it's just a very difficult game to play. But some people enjoy the gameplay for reasons, I guess. It's more of the old school BioWare fans, right? And, you know, I'm not that. And so, you know, they tried not to change too much, which I can understand. But also, I would like it to be better. And so I'm very interested to see how that turns out, and just really excited to replay Mass Effect for God knows what time. I don't know. I've played it so much. I love it to death. It's so good. I'm very excited. May 14th for PC via Origin and Steam, PS4 and Xbox One. They also talked a lot about the next-gen versions, which don't exist. It will be able to play on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S via backwards compatibility, but beyond better loading times with the SSD, it's not going to happen. Like, they came out and said that they are not doing any specific, like, optimization for the next gen, mostly because this is built off of Unreal Engine 3, which Unreal Engine 5 is coming out this year. So it's very, very old software that they're using, right? For them to rebuild the game on Unreal Engine 4, because they did ask. They actually talked to Epic, and I would recommend going on IGN and reading their preview of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, because it has a lot of really interesting information. But they talked to Epic to see if they could, like, kind of transfer the source code over to Unreal Engine 4, and basically some of the code used in Unreal Engine 3 can't be translated over to 4 because it's very dated, and so they couldn't do that. So instead of just, like, rebuilding from scratch, they just really, like, they touched things up, which is why I'm going to liken this, besides the stuff they're doing to 1, I'm going, based off of the trailers we've seen and the screenshots, I'm going to say that Legendary Edition is going to be a slightly touched up version of, like, what you would play on a PC now. Like, if I download Mass Effect, like the Mass Effect trilogy on my PC right now, you know, run it in 4K resolution, it will look pretty similar to what the Legendary Edition, you know. They've obviously, like, they might have played with the lighting effects a little bit, and that might change some things, and obviously they've touched up the textures. That's probably the main thing they've done, but overall it will look relatively the same. It's mostly just quality of life improvements and just making for an overall smoother experience, which I'm not complaining about. You know, I wasn't expecting a remake. That's not what this is, right? But yeah, so, and it's just because they don't have the resources to completely remake an entire trilogy of games that are all about branching narratives. Like, that's a lot of work to, like, to even make one game, let alone 3. But yeah, and so, yeah, it's coming out May 14th. I'm super excited for it. One of my most anticipated games. Very, very fun. Now on to some not great news. I'm very upset about this. I'm honestly kind of angry, and so we'll talk about this a little bit. Google Stadia is shutting down its internal game studios. Literally, like, not even 2 years after they were formed. And so, I believe they had two, yes. They had 2 Stadia Games and Entertainment Studios located in LA and Montreal. And so this closure will impact approximately 150 employees. Which, let's look at this. They came out with a statement which is like any other statement you've seen before from a dying company, or something that is shutting down, where it's like, we're committed to the future of the platform and the future of this and that, and we'll continue to provide amazing experiences through other parties and other developers, yada, yada, yada. This is a very, very bad sign. When they first opened up these studios, right, I took it as a sign that Google was committed to long-term development for the Stadia platform. Seeing that they have now shut these down without even releasing a game, actually, no, Outcasters, they literally, I mean, they've published games, but they have not developed they have not published a single game that they've developed, right? They've only published games, and just a few. That I can't believe they did it, to be honest. It's a really crappy move on their part. For the most thing, like, I mean, I'm not even talking about, like, the Stadia consumers. For the devs, like, this sucks to be working for over a year at this brand new job, and then they, like, take it and be like, yeah, you know, you just kind of wasted your time here. Like, not only do you not have a job now, you have nothing to show for it. And it's like, that is so crappy. Like, I can't believe they've done this. Because when that happened, I'm like, well, you know, if they're launching studios, they're committed, right? Because you can't just shut these things down. Like, you got to come up with something. You can't shut them down, like, right off the bat, right? They did. That's exactly what they did. You know, Google Glass, that was like a prototype, right? You know, because people were comparing it to, like, Google Glass. Like, when Stadia first launched, they'd be like, oh, they'll get rid of it just like they did Google Glass. And it's like, well, you're not investing as much money into it. And, you know, I don't know how much money, if you compared, like, how much they've invested in Stadia versus how much in Glass, but I think it's pretty safe to say they've invested quite a bit more in Stadia. But the fact that they just basically threw away all this money they put into these studios, like, what the hell? Like, it is ridiculous. Especially when you look at, like, when I was talking about Stadia, and I compared it to Steam, in that it took Steam 3 years to get off the ground. Here we are, a year and a half into Stadia, halfway to that point. And I think that there's been massive improvements to Stadia. I don't think it's where it needs to be right now, but I think it's made some progress. Now they're just shutting down, because I think the biggest thing is exclusive games, right? And I mean, I'm not sure how this affects, because they announced a long time ago that they were partnering up with, like, Supermassive and a couple other devs to, you know, make games. So I don't know if they're still going to have exclusive games on the platform, like, if those games are still coming or not, because I believe they were going to be published by Stadia Games and Entertainment, and now that doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it does, like, in that sense. Like, I think the publishing company went with the studios, and so it's like, are they going to have any? Because that's the biggest thing they need, right? I mean, that's how Steam got off the ground, was Half-Life 2. They need that killer app, and the problem is that they don't have that yet. I'd say the only games that Stadia has that make it worth getting are Get Packed and Orcs Must Die 3. And, you know, like, I wouldn't call either of those killer apps. They're fun, but, you know, that's not a reason to get to get on an entire platform. I mean, I think compared to, like, an Xbox or a PlayStation, with you have to shell out hundreds of dollars for it, whereas Stadia, you can just buy the games. I mean, I think there's less of a commitment there, but, like, still, I don't think those games alone are enough, right? But yeah, they need exclusives. They need games to lure people in. That's their biggest thing. And Stadia just said, basically, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're committed to Stadia. We're just going to take games that are on other platforms. Like, what kind of strategy is that? Like, everybody's saying that, you know, this Stadia is dying. This is Stadia. And it's like, I can't help but agree. Like, I don't see Stadia coming back. Like, this seems like Stadia, like, not saying that it's going away. Like, obviously Stadia is not going to be like, hey, like, because they're going to hold out. They've invested too much money into it to be like, okay, we're done now, bye. Like, this is going to be a process, right? But I'm sure these Google executives are like, you know, let's phase out Stadia. It failed. you know, uh, game streaming, like, my assumption is that it will be phased into something else. I'm not sure what exactly, but Stadia as we know it now, I think it's fairly safe to say is dead. It's not dead yet, but it's dying, right? I don't think this is the way that Stadia is going to be forever. Not even like meaning like it's going to get better, it's going to get more. I think it's going to become something else. Like it's still going to involve game streaming or some sort of like streaming, right? But it's not going to be this like platform where you buy game. Like it's not going to be like a competitor to Xbox or PlayStation, right? It's gonna be something else to do with streaming. I don't know. I feel like they'll reincorporate it into something else. But yeah, it's just so bizarre, and I don't know what to make of it. And just what are you doing, Stadia? What are you doing out there? I genuinely don't know. Like, come on. I had so much faith in you. I remember back in November of 2019, I was constantly checking my phone at launch because I mean we had the huge fiasco of launch, right, where the codes weren't released all at once and everything, and so I was constantly checking my phone waiting for that code. I was waiting to get that invite code to do Stadia. Like I was in class, I was like constantly like checking, being like, okay, like all right, I'm ready. And then like I get back to my dorm after class, and then suddenly boom, I got the invite code and I was so excited, and I launched Destiny 2 and I was playing and I was like, this is awesome, and I was like so excited for the future of Stadia, right? I could not wait. And look at us now. It's yeah, it's sad. Moving on to some different news. MLB The Show 21 has been announced for Xbox and PlayStation. So, back when the MLB renewed their license with San Diego studio, they made it to where they can come to other platforms, such as Xbox and Switch. While there was no Switch version announced, it is coming to Xbox. So we are now getting a PlayStation Studios game on Xbox. Woohoo! Yeah, like that's the thing. Like we've had a couple Xbox games over on PlayStation side, not too many, but we have had some. Now for the first time, PlayStation is putting a game over on Xbox. I don't think that they wanted to. Like I do not think Sony wanted this in any way. This was totally an MLB thing. I think they just wanted some more money, right? They didn't like the exclusivity stuff, and so they said, hey, we don't want to do that anymore, so if you want to keep making our games, you're going to put them over on other platforms. I imagine that's how that conversation went. But, yeah, it's coming to Xbox, which is exciting. They're doing the stupid next-gen pricing stuff that I can't say is stupid because it makes sense. But the PS4 and Xbox One versions are $60, whereas the next-gen versions are $70. I haven't played an MLB game since... I don't even remember what it was, but it was on the PS2. I barely remember it. But it was back when I was like 7 years old. I've wanted to jump in so many times. Every year I'm like, I'm going to play MLB. I'm going to play MLB. And then I don't. So maybe this is the year I jump in. And funny enough, it's the year it comes to Xbox, and I will most likely be playing it on PlayStation. And so, yeah. But it's coming. Shoot, I should have looked up a date. Hold on. Yeah, I literally had the article pulled up. I closed it and then realized, oh, I should have said something. It launches on April 20th, and there's going to be an early access period as usual if you get the Ultimate Edition on April 16th. So you get 4 days early access. And I am going to stall while I take a drink because I'm really thirsty. Look at that. I try to keep awkward silences out, but... they're hard when you're the only one here. So, finally, let's talk about some console sales. Some PS5 sales came out. I'm going to mention them really quickly. I'm mostly here to talk about Switch console sales because they're what I care more about, but it sold 4.5 million units. The PS5, which is the exact same as the PS4 sold back at its launch, like same period of time, which is both, I don't know what to say, like, it's cool because it's like even with all the shortages, it managed to match PS4 console sales. But given the PS4 success, you would think it would have done better. However, I am entirely confident it is just because of the lack of consoles that it wasn't higher. So had this not been a pandemic-fueled launch, I am sure it would have been much higher. But, congrats to them for having supply issues and still getting out the same amount as the PS4. Although, it is concerning that they didn't... I mean, I'm sure they probably wanted to make more. That's probably literally as much as they could possibly make. Because, yeah, they definitely would have wanted to say they outsold the PS4's launch. But anyway, so it's first to 10 million. That's how console wars go. And so, as far as we know, neither have made it to 10. I believe the PS5, because Xbox doesn't give sales numbers. Let me check VG charts to see what they're saying about the totals right now. They basically make guesstimates, and so let me see. Hold on. They're really bad at saying this. Okay, here we go. So their estimates are 4.8 million for the PS5 and 3.2 for the Xbox Series X and S. So fairly close. I would say fairly close. And again, given the supply issues, I would take that. I don't see this console war. I think PlayStation has a slight advantage, but it's closer than I expected. And, I think in terms of this console war, again, I hate the console wars, right? I have both sides, so it's not something I like to concern myself with. But if you're trying to say which one will sell more, I still think it's anybody's game right now. And also, I think Xbox, this is good news for Xbox, because I think where we were / still are technically, I think the PS5 looks way more appealing. But the Xbox has a ton of exclusives coming further down the pipeline, and so I think the pandemic limiting the sales of both consoles is almost a good thing for Xbox, because by the time they become more readily available, hopefully, Xbox will be like, look at all these games we have and PlayStation doesn't, and, maybe that can turn the tides over in their favor, so, I don't know. But anyway, that's enough about that. Let's talk about Nintendo Switch console sales, because that is where everything is great. There's not a ton to talk about this time. They had a kind of quiet end of the year, but yeah, they just came out with their quarterly earnings, and so as of December 31st, 2020, the Nintendo Switch has officially passed the 3DS with 79.87 million console units sold. That's nuts. I'm trying to think. Let me pull up highest selling game consoles, because it's getting up there. I think the Switch has the potential to be the best selling console of all time. As of right now, it is including this is including handheld consoles. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It is the 11th best selling console of all time, and it's been almost 4 years. So in just a little under 4 years, it has already had almost 80 million. It is about to pass the PSP. It still has the Game Boy Advance family, which, that's multiple systems. Although, the Switch does have the Switch Lite. You have the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii, PlayStation 4, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, Nintendo DS family, and then the big boy, PlayStation 2, at 155 million. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize how many consoles they sold. I mean, looking almost 4 years in, we're at basically 80 million. I am going to guesstimate, just right here, right now, I'm gonna say it... I'm gonna say it gets to about 120 million. I don't think it's gonna crack 150. So I think it'll be the third highest grossing or highest selling game console of all time. I don't think it's going to beat the DS and the PlayStation 2. Yeah, it's a lot. Just because we're almost 4 years in, right? We're at peak sales, but they're going to start going down. I don't know when, I don't want to say it's going to be anytime soon because I don't want to be proven wrong, but, it will start going down. Maybe soon, maybe not. And once that happens, it's very likely not going to go back up. And, there's all these rumors of a Switch Pro, and, I'm sure they're going to lump that in. And, that's why we got the Nintendo DS family with 154 million units, because it had so many iterations, right? And so the DSi, right? A lot of people owned a DS and then a DSi. And so in the same way, a lot of people own a Switch and then a Switch Pro. So I'm sure that will drive sales a lot. But, yeah. But other than that, Animal Crossing New Horizons has now sold 31 million copies. Has not yet passed Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 is now at 33.41 million units. And so it is still the best-selling Nintendo Switch game. We'll see if it can overtake big ol' Mario Boy. I'd say the most notable thing, we didn't have any new games crack the top 10. I believe this is the first time we haven't since the Switch launch. I don't want to say that for certain. I haven't been keeping track of all of the financial earnings releases. But yeah, I think every time we've seen something crack the top 10. I mean, there's a bunch, like Super Mario 3D All-Stars was really close. I believe the number 10 spot is held by... I don't think this article says. I forget what it says. I forget which one, but it's at like 9 million units. But 3D All-Stars sold 8.3 million, right? So it was really close to cracking the top 10, but it didn't. Then we had Paper Mario, The Origami King, sold 3 million units. Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity sold just under 3. Pikmin 3 sold almost 2 million units. And Mario Kart Live Home Circuit sold over 1 million units. So that is pretty cool. So they definitely saw some success, right, from these last few months. But, I mean, I definitely feel, I think it's pretty safe to say that, like, April onward, right, because we're going to, obviously Animal Crossing was a huge success, but I think since Animal Crossing, it's been a fairly slow time for Nintendo, which, Xbox has had an entire generation of being slow, so I don't necessarily be like, oh, Nintendo's trash now, right? But, we're definitely in a lull, so hopefully 2021 they can come back strong. I think this is, like I said, I'll say that this fall was the weakest the Switch has ever been, but that is not saying much, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. But that wraps up the gaming news. Let's talk about some games coming this week. We've got some cool stuff coming. 2 big games that I guess I'm moderately excited for both. I have some excitement for both. So first off, we've got Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood for PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, and PC today. A unique experience full of savage combat and mystical adventures. You are Kahal, a powerful Garou who can transform into a wolf and a Krynos, a huge ferocious beast. Master your 3 forms and their powers to punish those who defile Gaia. So basically, you play as a werewolf who goes after lumberjacks because he has a green thumb. This is basically, I feel like the best way to describe this is a AA game that's really trying hard to get people to think it's a AAA game. We'll see how it goes. I'm very interested to see reviews, but that is out today. And then tomorrow, for PS5, we have the Neo Collection. In this expansive collection, journey through Sengoku-era Japan to face nightmarish foes and legendary warriors in blisteringly fast, hardcore combat. Master the way of the samurai in Neo, then unleash your inner darkness in Neo 2, each expertly remastered and enhanced for PS5. So, I might pick this up, not sure. I have plenty of games to play on the PS5, but I never played Neo, and I've played very little of Neo 2. And so, what can I say? This collection is kind of calling out to me because I really enjoy these types of games, and so I may end up picking this up. I think I already will have Neo 2. I'm pretty sure I get the free upgrade since I bought it digitally on PS4, so I should already have that. So, I mean, technically, I'd only have to get the first Neo, right? But I mean, I could at least boot up Neo 2 and see how it runs on PS5. But yeah, so that comes out tomorrow. And so, finally, before we get out of here, talk about the games I've been playing this week. I've been playing some cool stuff. I finally beat Spider-Man Remastered. I can't remember. Did I do that last week? Did I mention that last week? I don't know. But, yeah, I've been grinding through that game. I'm at the worst part of the game now, which is the part where you have to grind crimes. I literally, like, I was doing a bunch of them, right? And I got through Harlem, the Upper West and East Side, and Central Park. And I was like, okay, how many of these do I have left? So, like, I looked through everything, and I had over 50 crimes left to do. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, I hope to God they bring back the Friendly Neighborhood Spidey app from Miles over to Spider-Man 2, which they haven't confirmed that I'm aware of, but it seems like, you know, it seems like they will. I hope they do, because, God, like, I love Spider-Man, right? Like, I love this game so much. It is so good. But the crimes aspect, like, that side thing of just, like, having to do all of these repetitive crimes over and over and over and over and over again for 100% completion, ridiculous. Like, trophy-wise, like, I'm trying to platinum the game, right? Because I already 100%ed this game when it first came out, but I didn't platinum it. So for the remaster, I was like, okay, we're going to platinum the game. And so I literally have gotten every other trophy from, like, the main line. Like, I haven't done the New Game Plus trophies or the DLC trophies yet, but I have every single trophy from the main line and the remastered trophies, because I think there's 5 new trophies for the remaster. I have all those, except for the 100% district completion trophy. And so I just have to grind all these stupid crimes, and it's so tedious, and just, I hate it so much. I was doing it for so long, I was like, okay, I can't do this. I'll have to come back to it. I don't know that I could do all those in one sitting. It's probably going to take me a couple more sittings of just, like, grind. And then I'm moving on to New Game Plus to get those 2 New Game Plus trophies. And then I'm playing the DLC for the first time, which I'm excited about, because now I'm really invested in the story, right? Because I'm like, okay, because I literally beat the game the first time around in a weekend. And so now, like, I took my time more on this run, and I'm, like, really invested in the story, and, you know, coming from Miles, and I'm just like, you know, I love this world, and I'm excited to play the DLC. And so, yeah, had fun with that. Like I said, I played the medium, had a really good time with it. I think I will eventually come back to it to play it some more. I've got enough games to play right now, but I'd like to come back to it, because, like I said, I had a lot of fun with this game. Really recommend it. Been playing some more Resident Evil. Got through a solid chunk of it. I'm about halfway through the game now, and then I got mauled by a shark, and I was like, all right. I was like, all right, we'll come back to that. So, but yeah, I'm almost halfway through that game. I've finally gotten to parts I haven't played yet, because I've never beaten the game, but I've tried to plenty of times, and so we're in new territory now. And yeah, I didn't realize that one part, if you've played, you know, where if you, like, where the shark takes the box, and if you step down, you just get immediately killed. Like, there's no, like, you get hurt, he just kills you. And so it set my progress back, like, 20 minutes, and I was like, and, like, I got a lot done in that 20 minutes, so I was like, yeah, no, we're gonna call it a night. And so, yeah, that was fun. And I've been checking out Cyber Shadow. So I'm hoping, I don't know, I really want to play Destruction All-Stars, so I might put this game up for a little bit while I check that out. But I'm almost halfway through, and it is so much fun. It's very hard. I wouldn't say it's like Dark Souls hard, but it is a challenging platformer. I would relate it to Celeste, although I would say this is probably harder than Celeste. But I'm almost halfway through. Really, really fun. It's like, if you like Ninja Gaiden, you know, this is your thing. It's a great Metroidvania. Would highly, highly recommend it. So the soundtrack is so good. It is so good, and there's some really cool items. Like there's this thing called a swag blade. I'm gonna do a full review of the game once I finish it, also on my channel. But there's this thing called a swag blade, which you can get it for a few like in a couple chapters. It's not an item you can like constantly have, right? You only get it on special occasions. But it's this like swinging blade on a chain that it like swings in response to your momentum. So like if you like jump and kind of like jump like in a circle, it'll start swinging like really really fast and it like obliterates enemies. Or like if you like jump forward, it'll kind of like swing out and like punch out and like and it goes according to your momentum. It's so cool. And there's other really cool items that are fun to use. And so yeah, it kicks ass. It's a really fun game. And so having fun with that. And then some more Uncharted 2. I'm almost done with it. Literally 98% done. I tried to finish it last stream I did, but it was like 4.5 hours in. I was like, okay, we'll have to finish it next time. So I'm hoping to finish that Saturday. Will be the next time I play. So I'll finish that and start Uncharted 3. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. If you're over on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, do all that fun stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're here on listening services, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, keep listening. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next week. Hopefully to talk about some Destruction All-Stars and just have some fun times with that. But until then, adios, amigos.